I had the most extraordinary week this past week. I was away at a conference last weekend. I was down in San Diego for the Dad 2.0 conference, and I'm at the opening ceremonies. Like, this is the opening cocktail event where there's drinks and hors d'oeuvres. There's tons of energy. Here's the funny part. My phone rings. It's 8:30 at night, and I look down. It's my daughter calling me, my 16-year-old daughter. She's calling me, and I'm like, I don't, why is she calling me? She doesn't usually call me. She usually texts me, and she doesn't usually call me at 8:30. And I pick up the phone, and here's what she says. Dad, everything's okay. No, of course, as a dad, the first thing you're like, what happened? And I said, okay, tell me what happened. And she said, Mom fell down the stairs. So we just moved into a brand new house. We just moved in that week. The night that I left, the night that I was starting a 4-day conference, my wife fell down the stairs and she broke her arm. The emotions that went through me in that moment, where I was picturing my 16-year-old daughter who just got her driver's license being responsible for taking my wife to the emergency room. For my 13-year-old son who was still at practice and didn't even know that his mom had fallen. And I am 2,000 miles away. I was completely wrenched. I spent the next couple of hours hovering over a laptop with it, like, buy return tickets, don't buy return tickets. Like, what am I going to do? It became one of those surreal moments where I had to trust that everything was going to be okay and feel completely powerless. Or we had close friends who totally jumped up, like you would expect, right? Like, you reach out to your community, whether it's your family or your chosen family, they step up. My wife's girlfriend came and just like dropped everything and joined my wife. And it was the X-rays revealed that she had a surgical repair that she needed for her arm. And that was a big challenge. We got the consult on Thursday, and the doctor's like, we want to schedule you for tomorrow morning. So we scramble to get our schedules together. You know, my wife goes into surgery Friday morning. The doctor said everything went great. You know, we put her wrist back together. We put a plate and screws back in. So here's what you should know. We gave her a lot of lidocaine. At some point, likely this evening, the pain will recede. And when it does, you're going to want to have pain medication. So here's a prescription for some pain medicine. We live about an hour away from the hospital, and it's actually on a ferry boat because we live on an island. And while we're waiting for the ferry, my wife says, you know, my arm is kind of becoming uncomfortable. 10 minutes later, while we're loading onto the ferry, my wife breaks into tears. I've actually never seen my wife break into tears because of pain. I watched her give birth to 2 of my and our beautiful children. I've seen her be with lots of discomfort in her life, but I have never seen her cry from pain. That was the come to Jesus kind of moment for me. And now that we're on a ferry boat, we have a 35-minute crossing. And in that, we have no pain reliever whatsoever. And there's nothing for me to do. As a guy, as a man, right? Like, there's no way to avoid that incredibly powerless feeling of watching the person you love, the person you've chosen to share your life with, be in so much pain and that there's nothing you can do about it. It was actually just being with her, like helping her by just being present and giving her whatever she needed if she asked for it. And when she didn't ask for it, just to be there with her during this unbelievable discomfort. As dads, we are the fixers, the doers and the protectors, right? We have a role. The who I am for my family is absolutely critical, and it's actually who my wife needed me to be in that moment. And at the same time, there was nothing for me to do to fix where she was at. There was nothing for me to fix at where she was at, but to just love her and tell her how much I loved her, and it was gonna be okay, and we were gonna get where we needed to go. What I discovered was in that moment, I had to manage myself much more than I had to manage anything on the outside because there was nothing to manage on the outside. I couldn't make the ferry go faster, couldn't make the pharmacy fill the prescription faster. I couldn't make the pain go away. I couldn't make my wife feel better. So where that left me with was a couple of places, one of which was dealing with all the emotional impacts, right? It has this tendency to drive you inward, where you feel like you're helpless, you're hopeless, you're just downright impotent. I have nothing. Like, the one thing I can do is try and fix things. And in this moment, there's nothing for me to do. And what I discovered was it was actually more important for me to be putting energy into managing myself so I could be present for her. Because what she really needed for me to be was the rudder in the water, in that moment because she could not see her way outside of her pain. Pain dropped everything away. Everything went away for her. She needed me to be a rudder in that moment. And for me to do that, I needed to get my head straight. And part of that was just distinguishing what it was I needed. Don't let any stories I have about something being wrong run the show. Like, there was nothing wrong. Yeah, she was in a lot of pain, but there was nothing wrong with the surgery. She didn't have an infection. They didn't screw the surgery up. It just was what it was, and what there was to do was just to be there, be the rudder in the water, and be solid. My wife could lean into me because I got this. But for me to do that, I had to do a lot of things. For me, it was a lot of breathing, like a lot of deep breathing. If you ever heard that phrase, walk out of the room and walk back in again, distinguish that you're being somebody, that you're acting in a way that's not in line with who you say you want to be in the world. The idea is that you physically can walk out of a room and walk back in again and choose how you want to be. Like, I know I was angry and indifferent, but my commitment is to be compassionate. I know that I was being reactive when my commitment is to be forward thinking and optimistic. And part of what the work was too was, how can I stay present to her? How can I sit in this car with my wife, my beautiful wife who's in so much pain and crying? How can I be with all of her pain and be here without walking away? Part of what opened all of this up for me was the vulnerability that I felt and that I think we both felt. She couldn't do anything but see her pain, and I couldn't do anything but love her right where she was at. It was a massive gift to be able to serve my wife this past 3 days. And she is so in a great place now. Everything is cared for. Being there to support her and get things done and shuttle her from place to place and whatever she needs, part of that has been really being in service, because that's the gift, is being in service of what's needed in the moment, but also distinguishing what there is that I need, because consistently being in service of others without being in service of yourself, it's a lose-lose game. It's that place where it's a guaranteed breakdown. So for me, this included journaling, gratitude, reaching out to friends, exercise, super big, consistently eating healthy. Being strong when others can't be requires a level of transparency and vulnerability, and at the same time strength that is like something outside of anything that we were taught as men and as boys. Like having that place where, how can I be here 100% open to all of it, which is the uncomfortable part, and still be that rudder in the water. This has been an emotional week for me. I'm so grateful to be able to be here. I was going to say excited, but I won't give you that part. But I'm so grateful to have been here to share this with you. I'd love to know what your experience is of being the rudder in the water for others. What tricks, techniques, values you found, or what challenges you have. This is always a more fun journey when we do it together. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.